I'm nervous.
Oh, have you ever tried not being nervous?
Oh my God, that solves all my problems.
You're welcome. I'm so
I
glad
can't
I was
believe
here.
I didn't think of that sooner. How dumb am I?
Well, it's all right. Yeah. Hi, I'm Maddie.
And I'm Abigail, and this is
Two writers.
Many Wrongs. Today, we are so excited to have Michaela Whatnall with us. They are a literary agent from Distal, Godrich, and Barrett. They graduated from Emory University with a degree in English and linguistics. Their background is in school and library marketing accounts, and they do have a deep love for children's and YA literature. In 2023, they were selected for the Publishers Weekly Star Watch honoree. And very fun fact, actually, I'm really excited to have Michaela on today because they passed on my manuscript as I was querying, and they were so gracious and kind about the whole thing. And then when I approached them at AWP to say thank you for responding to me. They agreed to come on the podcast. Thank you so much for being here and doing this and joining us. Like
Yeah, it's good to
I
see you again.
yeah, it really is. I was literally talking to my mom about this, and I was like, "Yeah," and like this agent was just like, "Yeah, I'll do that," and like I'm
Why
just always
not?
so surprised when people say yes.
I think we all, I mean, I don't know, personally, at least, like, I love to talk about books. I love to talk about writing. I love to talk about the industry. Like, that's why I'm here. So, yeah, happy
Nice.
to.
That makes me so
Yes, we
excited.
love that.
Oh my gosh. Okay. So we kind of have it into like three different kind of categories. But I'd love to start with like publishing and talk
Sure.
about obviously the basic, like how did you get into being an agent?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Okay. I'm trying to think of the short version. Essentially, so I was like one of those book kids, as I know a lot of
Mhm.
us were. Like,
Yes.
I was the local like book pusher in my middle and high school. Like, I would read something, I'd read like Maximum Ride or like
Oh my God.
Hunger Games and get obsessed and then like talk it up to everyone, and they couldn't make me shut up. And then to the point where I would like gather a group of people who were all really excited to read the book too. And I would have like, I would buy the book the day it came out. I would read it. Then I'd have like I
Oh,
was the library, right? Like I'd have my like
I
list of people.
love
Okay,
that.
this person gets it, then this person, then this person. And I
Hmm.
just got so much joy from sharing in my excitement over these books and getting to
Hmm.
talk about them with people. So that by the time I got to college and started really thinking about what I was going to do, like publishing was the obvious choice.
Mhm.
Like to the point where I had like a bit of a like mid-college crisis because I was like, surely I'm not considering all my options. Like there has to be something else that I
Hmm.
should be comparing this against or like looking at other paths. But publishing was just always it. There was never a question for me. So in college, I just started taking on like every internship I could. And then when I graduated, applying everywhere. And my one of my many internships led me to my first job, and it just kind of flowed from there. But yeah, uh, it was just never a question.
That's
I
amazing.
Well, I love to hear that because we always talk about like being a writer is not a choice. Nobody would choose to like torture themselves this way. And it's comforting to know that agents feel the same way. Like
A
it's not
little
a
bit. It's
choice,
like
it's
I
a
just
call.
flowed here. I mean, and that's why, like, because growing up too, if you're obsessed with books, people tell you you're going to be an author one day.
Hmm.
And I never felt it never that never felt quite right, and I didn't know why. I did write here and there, but never in a really dedicated way. I like edited my friends' fan fiction and stuff. Like that's more what I was doing.
I
And then
love
as I
that.
realized that there was a different career that wasn't just being an author, I was able to like put words to the fact that I don't have the writing bug. Like
Hmm.
you need the writing bug is my belief to do this thing because it's
Hmm.
so hard and it's not fun a lot of the times. You have to
Yes.
have that like internal pull to be
Hmm.
writing,
Yes.
to be storytelling in order to keep yourself going. If you don't, for me personally, like I don't have the bug, so I think it would be like pulling teeth if I tried to
Hmm.
pursue that. So that's why instead I'm on a path where the natural enthusiasm is there, the
Yeah.
motivation is there.
Hmm.
I do feel like even having the writing bug, it
It's
sometimes is
still
also
hard.
like pulling
Yeah.
teeth.
Right, right.
But I
Yeah.
want to. It's like I can't like,
Yeah.
oh, this is really painful, but I'm gonna keep doing it anyway.
Hmm.
Yeah.
I think it's easy to forget that like it is a special thing to have finished writing a book.
Hmm.
Like there are so many people who think about that and noodle a little bit and then walk away because they just don't have
Yeah.
that drive that so many people in the writing community do. So yeah, I think it is. I think it's a special trait. It's an intangible thing.
Yeah.
I,
No.
I think we talk about how we just kind of rest on the fact, even though that we don't have a lot of publications to our names,
Mhm.
but we did write books. Both of us
Right.
have
We
finished a
finished a
book,
book.
and
Absolutely. No,
that's pretty
it
good.
literally is. And whenever my clients like t even turn in a new draft, I'm like, congratulations. That was a feat. Like literally, I genuinely, I know I couldn't do it. That's why I'm on this
That's
side of the desk. Like it is so impressive to me.
That's so, so, so nice. I love that.
Yes.
I love you talking about like being the librarian of your friends.
100%.
And it makes me laugh so much. So, like one of the reasons that I queried you is because of your manuscript wish list. And I was like, oh my gosh, all of these books are like my favorite books too, whatever. And you have Naomi Novik's Deadly Education on
I
there.
just finished the third book like mere
It's
days ago.
so
So good.
good.
It's just the
I've
writing, the
been
voice, like the world building is unreal.
Yes, I've
Like,
been badgering Maddie for like a
you
month.
got to get on
I know,
it.
I know, I
Add
know.
it to your stack.
Yeah, but you said that and I was like, "Oh my God, I was that kid. I absolutely was that kid of just like
Yeah.
I love this so much. I need somebody else to read it so I can talk about it."
100%. And that it's so fun how that's still my job. Like that's I just turn it into
Mhm.
my job, right? That's just now I have my clients and I get to be that person. Obviously, I still hype up books that are not my
Of
clients'
course,
books, but
yeah.
now it's like I literally my role is to be like the number one cheerleader for these books that I have been one of the first readers on. Like it's
Mhm.
yeah, it's just kind of absurd how that path ended up happening.
What is that feeling when you like get the agent that you've really been
I mean, book.
like
Get the
going
client.
after? Yeah.
Yeah. It's so good. It's such a like there is like stress on our end, right? When you're going after a client, especially if you know there's other agents like running for that project too, or even if you don't, if you're the first to
Mhm.
offer, then you're like, oh, I hope they pick me. Like, when I offer rep on something, it's because I like deeply resonate with it on a certain level. Like
Mhm.
I feel like I get the author and their voice and the story they're telling, and I feel and I see I have a vision for like, oh my gosh, this is how we could make it better. These are the houses we're going to go to. Like I have a whole game plan, and so I get so tied. I really try to force myself to forget like when the deadline is and stuff because otherwise I'm gonna hyper focus on it. So I just like
Mhm.
try to go back to like my normal flow of life and like hope for the best. But it's just
Mhm.
it feels so good when I connect with a writer who we like I see their vision and they see that I see their vision, right?
Mhm.
And then we
Mhm.
have this like similar language or even, we're working on a manuscript together and I already know their next things they're going to write. I'm also going to resonate because it's not even so much that one specific book that I've connected
Mhm.
with, it's their like storytelling sensibility.
Mhm.
It's the
Mhm.
things they're interested, it's the like the parts of character they're interested in, it's the parts of craft they're interested in. I'm also interested in, so I know like we have a long journey ahead of us and that's very exciting.
Mhm.
Yeah, and I think that's the dream to find an
Yes.
agent that really connects as a writer. I want like an agent who doesn't just like this book, but likes the idea of working with future projects. And that's really
Yes.
cool to
Would we
hear.
like a cat cameo? Because he's standing right in front of me.
Yes.
This is
Absolutely.
Wylan. He's not going to behave very well, but that's Wylan. His little brother
Hi,
Kaz is
Wylan.
somewhere, so you could tell I like Six of Crows. But he's
Yes.
right out of frame. Oh, here's his tail. He's right out of frame.
Oh, so
Beautiful.
cute. We love cats here. I literally had to close the door to keep my cat out, or else he'll just sit here and like yell at me the entire time. It's
I
great.
have to leave the door open because if it's closed, they get so upset, and it's like better for me to have it open and just have them around, or
Yep.
else we're all going to hear scrabbling for like half an hour.
My
Oh my
therapist's
gosh.
cat will like sit with her paw under the door and shake the door so hard I can hear it. And I'm like, what is that? Is somebody breaking into your house? And she's like, no, it's just my cat's trying to get into the
Oh my
room.
gosh. That's
That's
amazing.
really funny. But
It's
yeah, that
really
is my
funny.
cats. They can't stand a closed door.
Oh my gosh, that's so funny. Okay, getting back on track.
Anyways, sorry, I
Anyway,
totally
no,
distracted
you're
myself.
good. I love it. I love it. Okay, so I really appreciate that feeling of connecting with an author. Like it's something that I think Maddie and I can both imagine. That again, I think that we as authors put agents on such a like pedestal sometimes that it's so nice to be like, no, they're just as eager to work with you. Like at the
100%.
AWP panel, one of you guys said something about like, we are looking for our next book. We're not looking for people to reject. Like we are actively looking for something to excite us. And that resonated with me so
Yeah, I think that's
much.
me who said that because that's
Yeah, I think it
100%
was.
like that is my philosophy. Like I love being in my query inbox. I love reading requested manuscripts. Like I almost, because like my priority has to be my clients and my day-to-day work.
Of
So it always
course.
feels like almost like a sneaky treat for myself to be like, oh
Oh,
well, I should be doing this, but let me just pop into my query inbox and like see what I could discover there. Like
yeah.
it really is like my favorite part of reading any book is the beginning. Like just because
Hmm.
there's that promise there. That's that feeling of like, am I gonna like connect with the voice? And feel like, oh my gosh, take me on this adventure. So yeah, so fully like I'm there because I want to find my next client and I want to find that thing that like resonates with me to the level that I'm the right person for it, right?
Hmm.
Because there's plenty of
Hmm.
books that are fantastic in my inbox, but I'm like, this is a great read, and I
Yeah.
have no idea what to do with it. Or this is a great read, but like, and the writing is fantastic, but it's not like the style that
Yeah.
like with me, right? And so you want to wait for the agent that it is the style that clicks with them because
Hmm.
they're going to serve you way better, like down the
Exactly.
path of your career.
Yeah. And I think that's something that we've learned from talking to so many different authors too is they've talked about like the agent breakup when you just
Hmm.
know that like it's not quite the right fit.
Yeah.
Do you have any words of wisdom for like that agent breakup moment?
Not necessarily in that I've obviously not been on the author side. And to be honest, I actually haven't experienced that with any of my clients yet. I think I'm new enough
Not
in my
surprising.
career. That's just, like that. Luckily, like we're all flowing really well together. But yeah, if it's not feeling right, it's not feeling right. This is your
Hmm.
business partner. This is like the
Hmm.
number one person that you need to trust. Like is going to manage a lot of things for you, is going to manage the editor relationship, like all of these like intangible things. And it's also someone who needs to advocate for your writing and your projects, and also in a lot of cases give editorial input, right?
Hmm.
So like if any of those pieces don't feel like they're there anymore, you're feeling like you've lost a sense of trust, or you're not getting that sense of resonance with your
Hmm.
work from them, then like it might be time to go find that person who you do get that sense from. I know it's a big decision though. So yeah,
I think it's hard, to remind us sometimes that it is a business partnership and not like a best friendship, because, it's so different from like our first readers and our beta readers. Like
yeah,
those are often friends and family. And it's like, no, this is a
totally.
professional who is
Yeah.
helping you further your
And if it's not,
career.
yeah, harder to get rid of your friends and family. Hopefully you
Yeah.
don't want to do that. But if it's not serving you, then it's not
Mhm.
serving you.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I was thinking about Kristen Harmel and how she
Hmm.
we talked to the author Kristen Harmel and she was
Mm,
talking about how she had an agent when she was writing chick lit and she
mm,
wanted to start writing historical fiction and that
yeah.
agent was like, I don't. I think she said, I don't think you
She
can
literally
do
said, I
this.
don't think you can do that, is what her agent
Ugh.
said to her. Right,
Yeah.
exactly.
And so she's
And
like, bye.
yeah.
Yeah. And
And now
and it
she's a
sounds
New
like
York
that.
Times best-selling
Right. Oh
historic
my gosh,
fiction
just
author.
flinging my headphones. But yeah, like it sounds like, in that sort of situation, it also that's not a person who maybe is an expert in that field or whatever it is.
Yep.
Obviously, I don't know that
No, of
situation,
course,
but if
yeah.
if you've signed with someone who's like really good in one area and then your career's diverging
Hmm.
hugely and you guys decide, you know what, I don't think we like are serving each other entirely, like then that's okay. And yeah, you go on and you become a bestseller with a different partnership. So there you go.
Exactly, exactly. Okay, I want to switch just a little bit and talk about like the greater writing community that's out there.
Mm,
So there was a lot of discussion that we had with other people at AWP about
mm.
like where the writing community is now that Twitter is no more.
I know. I know.
So I wanted to see if you, one, had any insight, but two, did you ever participate in any of like the pitch wars or the mood pit?
100%.
Yeah?
100%. Yeah. I know. I mean, yeah, sad about the direction Twitter has gone for
Yeah.
many, many reasons.
Yeah. A
And
lot.
I do think it is a little because I feel like that was like almost like the industry like water cooler in a way. It's like where you could
Yeah.
kind of expect
Yes.
a lot of us to be.
Yep.
Um, and now we don't have that central hub. Like I think we were all waiting, right, to see is Blue Sky going to be that hub? Is Threads going to be that
Yeah.
hub? Um, and I think everyone's pretty scattered, which is
Mhm.
hard. So then I
Mhm.
think like at least to me, like the solution then is to lean on your like, more personal, smaller groups if that like
Mhm.
larger conversation isn't happening in the same way. But I do think we've lost something. And I
Yeah.
don't quite know. I don't know. I feel like it's a waiting game. Like maybe it's something new is going to grow back eventually, but it's definitely taking longer than I thought. I will say I'm not a huge social media person, so in a way,
Mhm.
like you get me on a call, you get me in person, I will chat your ear off. But like something about like for me, Twitter, like I never felt like I was able to like express my thoughts in a way that felt like me.
Hmm.
I'm
Hmm.
gonna like be completely honest. Sometimes on my early posts on Instagram, I would have my partner read my posts and be like, "Can you make this sound more like me and not like a robot?" Because like when
Oh.
I write, sometimes it's
Oh.
so on social media, it's so
Hmm.
stiff, it's so like, and I'm like,
Yes.
this is not what I sound like. And so all
Hmm.
this to say, I wasn't the biggest Twitter user when it was live because I just didn't feel like I was able to like represent myself in the way that I wanted to. But I
Hmm.
did totally participate in DV Pit, and I think I was a newer agent during the time of Pitch Wars, but I did participate the one year that it was running when I was around. And I signed a client and we sold her book recently. So that's
That's
All We Hunger For by Anna
awesome.
Mercier. So like, I think there's a lot of value in programs like that. I think there's a lot of pressure in programs like that as well that we could
Yeah.
get into, but it's great to see, DV Pit's going to come back. They just announced on Blue Sky, so hopefully maybe
Oh.
that'll be. But there was like a manuscript wish list day on Blue Sky a few months ago, so I'm
Mhm.
wondering if that's a slow regrowth. But on the other hand, I've never been super active on social media. I try to
Mhm.
like Instagram's my main presence right now, just to be like shouting about my clients' books and
Mhm.
saying a little bit about what I'm up to, but it's never been as much of yeah, I'm much more I love my one-to-one conversations. I'm much worse on the
I
internet.
I
agree.
agree.
My
Yes.
tone never is quite there.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's really interesting about Blue Sky. Because people had they were talking about it a little bit at AWP. So
Mhm.
like I definitely think, I need to get more involved in that because when I was at AWP 2 years ago in Seattle, like I literally was able to have somebody read over my query letter because they posted under the hashtag on Twitter and was like, hey, free query letter advice, blah, 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 whatever. And this time around, I just really feel like I missed out on some of
Mhm.
those like
Yeah.
offsite things that were happening and because
Yeah.
there wasn't a way to track it.
Yeah, 100%. I just there's like there's less people in every space versus that like
Hmm.
us all coming together in one. So yeah, it's hard. It's hard. I don't really know. I don't know
Yeah.
what the future is going to be there.
Yeah, I get that.
Yeah, but
Um,
I mean, again, I keep hearing Blue Sky is the one that I hear people talk about the most. So
yeah.
maybe
There are
we'll see a
definitely people over
resurgence.
there, and like
Yeah.
I like lurk on there every so often. But I think that's probably where the majority of like the louder book Twitter people who did leave Twitter, like I do
Hmm.
think moved over there.
Yeah.
So that might be somewhere to look, but definitely not the same as it was on Twitter, I
Yeah,
would say.
no.
Yeah. Yeah. Talking about communities and like little cohorts that people tend to
Mm,
form. I know that you got your start in I think it's school and library marketing.
yeah.
So you talk about like your love for middle grade and YA and all that kind of
Mhm.
stuff. What draws you to that specific genre
Oh my
of
gosh.
books?
Yeah. It's funny because when I entered publishing, I really was just like knocking down the door. And my very first internship was reading queries for an agent. And from that moment, like when I learned about agenting as a career, I knew that's what I wanted to do because at the time, the comparison I like to draw that only makes sense to theater people is like I feel like being a literary agent is very close to being a stage manager, which is what I did in college, like for fun on the side. Which, yeah,
Hmm.
I know you're a theater person, so
Yep.
hopefully you get what I'm saying. Because the stage manager, you're like you communicate with everybody involved with the production. You're sort of like a right hand man in a way to the director, but then you're also speaking to all the people on the tech side, and you're just making sure everything, all the communication is flowing. But you're also like you're there for all the rehearsals. You get to like be sitting at the table as you're running through rehearsal and giving input. You're not like the main artistic voice, but you're there to just kind of like make sure everything flows, and you get to be involved in the art in the way that like say a production manager doesn't, right? They're just the one making sure like the budgets are happening, that all the like they're so on
Hmm.
the technical side that they're not as present for the art side of things.
Yeah.
So I feel like being a lit agent, you're in a similar spot, right? Where you get to
Hmm.
be hands-on with the art, even though you're not the editor, you're not
Yeah.
like
Hmm.
directing the show or giving a ton of those in-depth input, but you are giving big picture input, and then you also get to be the person who's just like annoyingly good on email and like good at follow up and good at like
Yeah, you
making
get
sure
to
all the pieces are
orchestrate the
flowing.
whole thing. I mean, you really
Exactly.
are orchestrating, calling the lights, calling the like,
Exactly,
yeah.
exactly. Like, okay, like,
Yep.
Q1 or like, where's the
Right.
marketing plan? Like, same thing, right?
Yeah.
So all this to say, when I had that first internship my sophomore year of college, I was like, oh, like, this feels like a fit.
Hmm.
But it's very, very hard to get a job at a literary agency. Like,
Hmm.
they're small. There's
Yeah.
not a lot of them. There's usually not a lot of openings in the way that there are at like big publishers, right?
Mhm.
So all this to say, I just like knocked on I was just like, let me into publishing and I'll figure it out from there, right?
Yep.
So luckily, one of my first internships led me to my first job, which was in school and library and was in children's. And so I don't think I thought very hard at that point in time that like I wasn't busy thinking about what kinds of books I wanted to work with because I just wanted to be in publishing.
Yeah.
But I
Mhm.
feel so lucky that I landed on the children's side
Hmm.
straight away because that is where my passion is because I was that kid, right? Like for me,
Hmm.
books shaped so much about my experience. Um, and to be honest, like I'm one of those people who's like very invested in putting forward diverse voices in books because,
Hmm.
I'm queer. Uh, the books I was reading in middle and high school, all the protagonists were white,
Yep.
all of them were straight. I didn't read a queer character until college, and I have some of my identities are, I'd say, like more obscure ones, or at least at the time that I hadn't
Mhm.
even heard the terminology, right? So
Mhm.
when I did hear the terminology in college, changed my life, like
Yeah.
opened up new possibilities for me, gave me
Hmm.
permission to be myself in a way that I had not even realized was
Hmm.
on the table. So all this to say, I'm so passionate about getting those stories out there for kids who both, will see themselves there, but also can learn about other
Yep.
experiences. Um, because that is something that was missing from my amazing reading
Hmm.
experience growing up, but I didn't
I was gonna say
have
the
that.
only thing that we had was Animorphs was like the
Yeah,
closest we ever
transitioning, huh?
right.
That's hilarious. I think I read one or two of
Stop.
the Animorphs. I have a friend who recently has been like reading back through them and
Oh
she'll
my
like tell me the plot and
gosh.
I'm like, that is the most unhinged thing I've ever heard,
Yes, yes. I think I
but
read like
like
the first two and
incredibly.
I was like, I don't know if this is for me,
I
guys.
still remember the covers though. Like they were very iconic in
Yes.
like the elementary
Yep.
school like library.
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah.
Um,
Kind of scary too.
very
Yes.
scary.
Like
Yeah.
Yeah.
the mid transformations are always like,
Hmm.
what
I
is
was
happening?
almost exclusively reading like horse books in elementary school, so I didn't really gravitate towards the Animorphs.
I love that. Yes. No, I was all about series of unfortunate events. That
Mm,
was my elementary
that was your
school
thing.
bread and butter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
reading Choose Your Own Adventure.
That's good though.
Oh.
That's
No
really
wonder
good.
why you're a
Uh-huh.
DM.
I know,
Oh,
I
that makes so much
know.
sense.
It
Oh my
Right?
does.
gosh.
I do. I love that idea of like how these books that we read as young kids really do like shape us into who
100%.
we are as adults, you know? Because I'm even thinking about like Maddie with your Choose Your Own Adventure, being a DM, kind of wanting that control. Like me with Series of Unfortunate Events, completely obsessed with like family and family stories and family drama. Like that's
Yeah.
really
It informs a
interesting.
lot. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
me with no, I didn't end up being
A horse
like
girl,
into
but
horses
still,
later on. I
yeah.
mean, I do love horse. Well, no, at the time,
Horses are great.
but yeah. Oh, this is I'm like me with my career as a jockey. No, um, but
No, but
no. So I think that's so important. And the other thing I remember when I was starting out in publishing, somebody put into words for me the fact that if you're working with kids' books, you are responsible for growing the next generation of readers, right?
Mhm.
If we lose kids, if we
Mhm.
lose a generation, if we don't connect with them, that's an entire like readership that is just gone.
Mhm.
Like it's
Yep.
going to be hard to find them as adults.
Hmm.
And so that feels like a really important responsibility as well, and something I love being a part of. So yeah, there's a lot of I could probably talk to you for like an hour about why I
Yeah.
love working with kids books, but those are just some facets of it. And the other, I just love it. I love coming of age. I still feel like, I'm
Hmm.
30 and I still feel like a kid sometimes. I just like
Yes.
I
Yes.
love those explorations. I love the freedom. To be honest, I love the pacing. Like I love
Yeah.
working on books that are plotty and have a lot happening.
Hmm.
Um, uh, which of course not all the kids books I have on my list are like that, but I
Yeah.
think YA especially that I work on is like that, and I just get a lot of joy out of that. And I love that they're often concerned with, even if we have an exciting plot, we also have some themes we're exploring, right?
Hmm.
We
Yeah.
have some, whether it's coming of age, whether it's identity, whether it's some facet of the human experience that
Yeah.
this character is like exploring and learning
Hmm.
about. Like I love having something like that. I can like hold my like the grip my hands into a little bit, even
Yep.
as we're like saving the world or whatever it is we're
Yes.
doing.
Yeah,
Right.
I love that. I have a 1-year-old daughter and her all-time like favorite book right now is she will always pull Boys Like Pink or Pink is for Boys, that one. Obsessed with it. And then she likes Click Clack Moo, which in our household we
Mm.
call Hey, Unions Work.
Listen, start them early.
It's great. And like it has become one of my favorite activities going through the children's book section and seeing the variety and like getting to like re-experience kids' books with her. And there are so
Yeah,
many books that like I'm excited to show to her and like YA books I'm excited for. But it's also, like you said, that it's so different from what we had when we were kids that it's
completely
so
different. Yeah.
exciting to see the variety that she's going to get to pick through. It's great. I
Yeah.
love that.
Oh, that's amazing. I love that you're growing her as a reader too. That's so cool.
Oh my gosh, girl is
Yes.
obsessed with books. Like it's wild how much this girl
Oh,
loves books. It's wonderful, but it's
that's
also like,
amazing.
can I not read this for the 17th time today? And
That is, I feel like that is like the parent's dilemma. It's like the one or two picture books that just like get glommed
uh-huh.
onto, and then you're like, oh, this is where we are for like 3 months.
Yep, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah. So I do want to switch just a little bit to some of the more like personal kind of stuff.
Mm,
You do, I mean, just researching for this interview, you do a lot of interviews and speaking engagements.
mm.
Do you do that like just as an attempt to kind of demystify what it is to be an agent or to reach out to potential authors, or do you just like talking about it?
I mean, all of the above, I would say. Like
Okay.
as you witness, like I usually say, yeah, if someone reaches out, I say yes. I try to make it work because yeah, both I enjoy like giving my perspective, but yeah, I think as you kind of referenced, it is it is a very like murky world, publishing.
Mhm.
It's so intangible, right? So many of us are just like on our laptops and there's all these like functions of the industry that just kind of happen in the air, in the ether that like you can't put your finger on, right? And there's
Mhm.
so many stories and perspectives and like experiences that like sometimes speak to the general realities of publishing. Sometimes are horror stories that like may or may not happen. There's just so much out there. And I think yeah, it can be really intimidating. I know for new writers coming in. I mean, even when I sign up clients, even when we sell someone's debut, I'm constantly like trying to give them insight about what's going to happen as part of the process and constantly being like, ask me questions. If you're confused, please tell me because there are some things I know are not going to be obvious to you if this is a new part, like, a new experience
Mhm.
for you. And there's some things I'm going to forget because
Mhm.
I've been here like 10 years and it's just like,
Yeah.
something that just obvious to me or feel like, oh, of course
Mhm.
that's how that works. That's not going to be obvious to someone just coming in. So all this to say, I really love talking about it and helping demystify because like how else are people going to learn? When I started
Mhm.
agenting, I listened to a bunch of interviews with agents. I was like, I
Oh.
want to hear how these other people do their job. I want to hear like their strategies and things because every agent functions differently. Like every single agent, even within the
Mhm.
same agency, has different approaches to certain things.
Mhm.
It's something I love about the job. There's literally every day looks different. There's always new questions or new issues that
Mhm.
arise that you've never dealt with something quite like that before, even if you've been
Uh-huh.
doing this for decades.
Yeah.
So all this to say, like, I love listening to people talk about the work that I do to learn from them, to like pull things in, be like, oh, could that work for me? So I have to
Mhm.
imagine, it can be helpful for writers too to hear from other writers, to hear from agents, other, marketing folks, like whoever, and
Mhm.
hear about like the different steps of the process. Cause like, how else are we gonna know what in the world is going on?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, there's
Yes.
just so much about agents that we both went to an MFA program. We weren't really
Mm.
taught that much about the
Mhm.
I hear
publishing
that it's
process.
very like focused on writing versus,
Yes.
which I think for some people probably serves them, but for others, if you're like, I'm here because I want to work towards getting published, then it's like,
Mhm.
what is the next step? That feels like kids in undergrad too, right? It's like you go to
Well,
Yes.
school, you take classes.
yes.
It's like, okay, so
Yep.
like, how does this translate to a
To
career
a
though?
job.
Right.
Yeah, like,
Exactly. Yes.
it's and that like there's all this thing like you're not going to be a writer because you want to make money.
Mhm.
We're here to make an art, and it's like, well, yeah, I want to make an art, but I want to also try to make like a
I
little
would
bit
like
of
to be paid
money,
for my work. That'd be
Right.
a
great.
little
Well,
bit.
or even
Yeah.
I just want to be able to like share my art,
Yeah.
that's like the biggest thing is I've resigned myself to the fact that I'm not going to make money doing this, but I would like, to maybe sell the book somewhere and people can buy it. Like that'd
Yeah,
be
I
cool.
mean, and you don't know. And I do feel like there's a really weird, like, defeatist attitude that happens. Like my partner went to an MFA program for screenwriting and
Hmm.
came out of it being like, I never want to even try to work in Hollywood because all anyone is saying is how horrible it is,
Hmm.
Which, like, I think for my partner was the right choice. But, like, it's
Yeah.
also so discouraging to be like, okay, come to this MFA program and we're gonna bang into your head that there's no point you even trying to pursue this
Hmm.
as like which again, I don't know if I've not been in an MFA program. I haven't seen that happen personally, but I have heard
Yeah.
stories about
Oh
that. And it
yeah.
feels similar
Yeah.
to, yeah,
Hmm.
like people going to art school of any kind and being told like, you're just here to explore your art and then this isn't going to go anywhere. Like, why are
Yep.
we saying that?
Yeah.
It absolutely could go somewhere.
I mean, Maddie, she writes sci-fi, is working on a sci-fi opera right now,
Oh,
and her
fun.
last semester in grad school had a horrible mentor who was like, genre fiction
I was
isn't
gonna
worth your
say,
time.
I don't
Like,
think they like genre fiction in MFA programs.
it
That's
was
what I'm all about, though.
right.
That
Yeah,
sounds
I
fun.
mean, I definitely had some really great mentors and learned that like I had a lot of trouble like defining my writing because of the
Mm,
fact that like I'm like it's not like commercial sci-fi,
Hmm.
but it's also not like, these other books that these other people are writing. And then I had a mentor was like, you're writing literary sci-fi. Like you are writing something that's not quite like commercial, but it's also not quite literary because you're blending into the genre of sci-fi. And that was very helpful. But then I got to
Yeah.
somebody who's like, if I see a robot in your story, that is not, that's not art. That's
Ugh.
lowbrow,
Oh, come on.
Right.
That's so, yeah, I hate
Yeah.
that. I really
Yeah.
hate that. Well, I'm glad that it seems like you've probably, hopefully, gotten a lot of counter programming from other mentors and from writers and
Yes.
from, because clearly there's a readership, right?
Yeah,
Yep.
I
Clearly.
mean, clearly, because like I like really like explored my niche genre, and I was like, I let me try and find like let me find my Anne Leckie, let me find
Yeah.
my
hmm
Ursula K. Le Guin, and these are the people that I want to emulate, and trying to get really deep into that niche and learning about it so that I could reteach myself that art and that
Yeah.
Yeah.
it's real and it
Like
exists.
validate it for yourself.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Right.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh.
No, but I do think that MFA programs definitely have that reputation in there. And again, like we talked about, they really prepped us to focus on the work, but not so much on the publishing side of things.
Yeah.
So, I mean, Maddie and I, it's really been kind of the two of us like researching ourselves, trying to figure out what the hell we're supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
And this podcast has been really interesting because I've had family members say to me like, oh, because I don't know if I told you this at AWP or not, but Lauren Scoville,
Mm,
she asked me for 50 pages
mm.
after I queried her. And like, it was the very first agent to like ask for more. And it was so exciting.
I
And
love
like,
Lauren.
oh my gosh, if she says yes, I'm going to
Yeah.
like lose my mind, but that's beside the point. She still hasn't replied. So fingers crossed. But anyway, I was telling my family this and they were like, oh my gosh, like you got an agent. I was like, no,
No.
No.
no, no, no. Like we're still excited. We're still getting ice cream to celebrate, but it's
Yes.
not that one yet.
Yeah.
Um, and so, like, being able to talk through this, they've gotten a deeper understanding of those different stages and steps of things,
Yeah.
like to actually get book onto shelf.
Yeah.
So again,
Very
I
inside
really,
baseball. My family
yeah,
still half the time thinks that I edit books. Like they think that's my so like I am with you. Like it's like no, okay, here's how the structure of the publishing process. Okay, so you publish
yeah,
books? No.
no.
So
I
I
love
hear you.
that. Yeah, yeah, it is. So I love that you are so willing to just like talk about it
Mhm.
and help demystify some of the process because that's really the one of the goals of this podcast. Like number one is to build community, but number two is, to talk about the steps to getting where we want to be.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, happy to be
Yeah.
here. Happy
No,
to be
it's
being
great.
a small
Yeah.
part in that.
Yeah. I do want to ask, like, I know that you said every day is different, but like, what is a typical, like, day-to-day operation for an agent?
I can't even answer for an agent. All I can do is answer for me.
Oh, okay, for you.
It's totally fine.
I
Yeah.
could say like large buckets of what we do, but yeah,
Yeah.
I mean it's definitely a mix. I will say it's a ton of email inbox management, and
hmm
those emails can be anything from answering questions from a client to send reviewing and sending their royalty statements to receiving contracts, reviewing the contract, negotiating the contract, um, emailing with when we have submissions out, like dealing with responses from that. Like literally I could go on and on and on. Like there's just so many like little minutia or
hmm
once a book's on its road, then we have cover concepts coming in, discussing
hmm
that with the client, discussing that with the publisher, getting the marketing plan, discussing that, seeing what asks we want to make. Like there's just so many little pieces, and so every book, right, is it like a different stage of the
Yeah.
process, or like I'll have I have a couple emails right now that are clients developing projects, and so we've had discussions and now they're coming back to me with like these long emails like, okay, I'm thinking like maybe this for revisions. And it's like, okay, so
Yeah.
like thinking about that. So that's all there's so much email management. Then there's calls, right? Calls with
hmm
my clients to discuss work or discuss any issues that have arisen or discuss, career strategy, calls with editors to learn more about their interests, get them to update me about, what they're looking for right now,
hmm
maybe pitch some projects. And so many other things too, right? Talking about subrights with my subrights manager at the agency. Like there's a ton of bouncing around. And so for me, I really like to like chunk out my days so that
hmm
I at least, because it's so easy to be doing one thing and get pulled into something else. And
It
sometimes you
sounds
need to, right?
overwhelming.
Yeah, sometimes, and like I'm getting messages from my team internally, I'm getting emails from other people, getting calls. So like for me, I love to really like concentrate for chunks of time. And then, so maybe it's like, okay, I'm doing 30 minutes of like deep reading on this contract or this manuscript. And now in the next half hour, I'm going to flip over and address the urgent emails that just came in. And then I'm going to flip back. Like to me, that's my best way of managing it. And I like to put my calls at the end of the day, usually because my brain's better in the morning. So I'd rather be social, be talking, and have that energize me later in the day. Whereas in the morning,
Oh,
I'm like,
yeah.
okay, locking in. Like, so it's such a mix, but that's what I love. Like, I really love that it's never going to look the same. It's the same types of things and queries too, right? I like to start my morning with queries sometimes almost as like as I'm, warming up, as I'm getting into the day, like it feels like a nice inviting way to start things out. So it's just, it's so many different tasks and some of them start to look the same, but a lot of them have different flavors every single time. So yeah, that's I guess a little bit of a peek into just a handful of things that I'm doing. Would you like me to expand on any of that stuff? I know it's a lot.
Yeah,
I
well,
mean, yeah.
let me do quick little sidebars. One thing that I always say is work with the energy you have. So I love that you talk about like I'm
Yeah.
doing this at this time.
Yeah.
Because that's something I ask myself constantly. I was like, what is my brain capable of doing right now?
Yeah.
Can I edit my novel? No, I don't think so. But I can read a
Like,
book
what else
about
can I?
craft.
That's
Or
exactly. I'm like almost sometimes you have to force yourself to do the thing if it needs to be done, but sometimes you're like, my brain is drawn towards this. So let's just run in that direction right now because I'm actually gonna like get it
yeah,
done
like
faster.
I like
Yeah.
to look at my to-do list and like, okay, I can't do this on the to-do list, but my brain can this thing, I can handle that. So let's go
Yes.
do that.
100%.
And
Yeah.
then I just want to know, this is very, very specific. How many emails do you get
Oh my
like
Oh Lord, I
like
have
a
to
day?
say, so I've worked at a publisher before, and I got way more at the publisher because we were at a huge company, and so I was on so many listservs that like I was
Wow.
getting, emails per minute, and like maybe 1 in 10 was one I actually had to take action on.
Wow.
Whereas as an agent, almost every email is something I have to take action on. I have my queries are separate from my
Yeah.
emails. When I first started at Distal, that wasn't the case. They were all actually flowing into the same inbox, which
Oh
was
gosh.
hard mentally for me.
Yeah.
Because I would always just drag them into a folder. And so now in Query Manager, I don't have to do that. They're just in the folder.
Nice.
I don't have a good number for you. It honestly is not as many as you would think, but I
Okay.
also know the agents who have been at this longer than me. I've seen their inboxes, and it's like they get like an email every 30 seconds. And I'm like, how are you functioning? How are you functioning? I'm more,
Yeah.
maybe I'll get somewhere between, I don't know, 20 to 40 might be a good guess. Honestly have no idea. Also depends. You guys know this. You know when you get an email and then you respond, and then they send you another email in reply to your email? Isn't that rude of
Yes.
them to
Yes.
continue the email
Right.
I
conversation?
It's
know,
like,
right?
no, we
Like
answered, we're
I
done.
just I just I just got that out of my inbox. I'm
Exactly.
done with that for the day. Okay.
I'm an inbox zero sort of person. Like I like
Me
to have my
too.
primary
Me
inbox.
too.
Yeah, okay, you guys feel me. So like
Yep.
I love to feel like it's mostly clear in there. So when
Yep.
something comes back in immediately, I'm like, oh, come on.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, like
I
this is off my
literally,
plate.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
I'll look at my husband's email and I'm like, you have 70 unread emails.
Nope.
He's like, well, yeah, none of them are important. I'm like, then delete them.
Yeah.
Put them in the phone. Like, I don't
I have
Immediately.
the same relationship dynamic actually. Yeah, my partner is the same
Gosh.
way. Or even with like unread text messages, I just can't even have.
Yes.
I need to touch it. Like I
Yep.
can't have that little flag. It does something with my brain. I need to like
Yes. Yeah.
clear the
I'm
flag.
I'm the same way, but my problem is I'll get a text message from somebody and I'm like, oh, I need to clear this notification. I can't text them right now, so I'll just have to remember.
And
And
then
then
yeah,
3 days pass and I'm
yep.
like, I'm an asshole.
And
Like,
this is why my partner's approach might actually be better because it's like I'm not going to click
Mhm.
that until I'm ready to respond. I'm like, I
Yeah.
don't know what you mean,
but
but
it's like my fingers are twitching. I have to dismiss it. I can't deal with it right now. It's
I'm the
like,
same way as you. I'm the
hmm
same way. That's funny. We're all similar in that.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. I definitely think this industry does pull in like a certain personality type, you know?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. It really
Yeah.
does.
Yeah.
It's really funny talking to other agents because I do think there's so many differences between us, but I love when I like identify. I'm like, oh, we're on the same level in terms of just like how we manage things, for
Yep.
example. Like not
hmm
everybody is, but like when I meet
Yeah.
agents that I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, we're like, you're similar to me. I
hmm
see you in me.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. It's one of those things of like, oh, we can be friends. We can talk about this, you
Yes.
know? Yeah.
Yeah.
mhm.
We're not
Nice.
gonna like be like, what in the world are you talking about?
Yeah. Um, I would like to talk about some like no-nos maybe kind
Mm.
of thing that really are just kind of genuine questions
Oh,
from
I'm so
personal
curious.
experience.
Oh, I'm so curious.
Because
Okay.
you're the first time I've gotten to actually like
Oh
talk to an
gosh.
agent, and I just
Yeah.
want to know.
Ask.
I've been asking Maddie's advice on these things for so long, and I'm like, I don't know. Okay, so question number one. If an agent does not have an email listed
Mm.
on their website, you should not then go digging for that agent's email to try to reach them. Yes? They
Ye-
obviously don't want it out there.
yes, to my knowledge.
Okay.
Are you talking about for the sake of submission specifically?
I'm talking for the sake of following up on a submission. Like sometimes
Mm.
they'll say like, "Oh, if you don't hear anything, reach out, blah blah blah." But it's like, "Well, I
Yeah.
submitted through query manager. How do I reach out to you?" Kind of
I
thing.
actually, I have a personal, all of my answers are going to be my personal preference,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
probably. So can't speak for whatever other
Of
agents, but
course.
actually with Query Manager, my understanding is you can follow up through Query Manager. Is that your
Oh,
stance on your end that you can send a message?
okay.
Because often I have, like say someone has a full with me and I've taken a while, they can
Mhm.
follow up, they can send a message on that same like query
Cool.
in within Query Manager. And for me, I much prefer that rather than an email
Hmm.
because the Query Manager is where I manage queries. So if
Yep.
someone sends me a query, then I have to go into Query Manager and be like, okay, wait, which query does this refer
Hmm.
to? And make sure where am I at in the process? Whereas if they send it via Query Manager, then it's all there in one place, and I can say,
Hmm.
okay, like this is where I'm at with your manuscript. So that would be my recommendation on that.
Okay, that makes me feel better
Yeah.
because that's exactly what I did. And literally at AWP, one of the people who was on a panel for something was like, no, what you need to do is you need to try and figure out what the email formula is and then email that. And I was like, I don't, that sounds like stalking. I don't
I
think
mean,
that's right.
I have done that if I need to get in touch with somebody
Yeah.
at a certain company. But in the case of queries, if they're already using
Yeah.
Query Manager, they will get it will come through as an
Yeah.
email on their end.
Okay.
Like they will see it. So yeah.
Okay. And then second question is, I have queried to a place that they say, okay, go ahead and send your email here, and
Hmm.
you will get a bounce back email saying that we've
Hmm.
received it. And then I never got a bounce back email. So then I
Uh,
followed up to the same email address and never got a bounce back email. So then I reached out to the general info email address and never got an email. So then I reached out through their Instagram and never got a reply. And there's no phone number listed anywhere. I'm like, can I just talk to like a secretary somewhere to see if you got my query?
that's so odd.
What would, I mean, what is the
It sounds
professional
sketchy. It sounds
approach to,
sketchy
I
to
know. Well,
me.
my
you would
question
think so,
is,
but they represent some huge writers.
do you know other people who have queried them recently? That would probably be my next step. Or like to go on. So there's like a page that is forbidden to me on
Hmm.
Query Tracker,
Yeah.
where I have forbidden myself from it, is what I mean.
Oh,
This is my
Yeah.
version. This is my version of don't read the Goodreads reviews. I know
oh
there is a
yes.
page on Query Tracker that where people can go and update and write about what their experience querying an agent was,
Yeah.
like how fast they were, or like what their form letter response looked
Oh,
like,
I
or whatever
see.
that
Yeah.
is.
Right.
That might be somewhere to check just to see like what other people's experiences are. Like, are other people getting the bounce back? Like, is it just you, or is their system not
Okay.
working right now?
There, from what I can see, it's just people posting that they sent their query.
Mm,
I don't know, but I'll try and follow up on it. But I was like, I
yeah.
wonder if it's me. Am I doing something
I
wrong?
would be surprised if it was you, like, especially if your email is working in every other way. My guess
Yeah.
is just something's funky that they're out of office, or what their bounce back is not
Thank you.
working. And to what I could see in Maddie's eyes, like to a certain extent, if you've gone through all of
Yeah.
the submission processes that are laid out for you at an agency and like you're not getting the
Hmm.
response or like the response that you've been told to expect, like
Yeah.
if I were in your shoes, I would probably move my attention to places that are,
Yeah.
giving you the input that you have been told to expect and
Yep.
also like communicating with you.
Yeah.
But yeah, so yeah,
Okay.
my first step
Thank you.
would just be to get a sense of like, are other querying writers getting the same lack of bounce
Yeah.
back?
Thank
Yeah,
you.
but
I
I
appreciate
definitely
that
think because we talk about how you want an agent who represents you well, but also you want like
hmm
a personality match that they vibe with you
hmm
and your communication style. And I'm just like, Abigail, this is not it. You're somebody who wants like
Yeah,
you want a bounce back email.
I do.
These
I
people
need
are
that
not
constant
it.
reassurance.
Right, right. If you're chasing them at this stage, then
Yeah.
maybe, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But no, it was just one of those things where I was like, is it me, Jesus? Did I do it? I'm sorry. So sometimes it's just nice to, because Maddie and I talked about this a lot at AWP. I don't have a lot of experience working in like a professional field. Like I'm an adjunct
Mm,
professor, but that's hardly like professional. You know, it's academic is different. I don't have any like corporate
Like
experience.
office job. Yeah.
Right. So a lot
Yeah.
of times like I would defer to Maddie and be like, "Is it okay if I go up and like talk to Lauren? If I go up and talk to Mike? Like is that professional? Is that okay?" And she was like, "Yeah, talk to people. Like you're fine."
She's like, have a conversation, please. But I totally understand that though. Like I
Yeah.
think that there are some unwritten rules of professionalism that like
Hmm.
you do just have to learn as you go. And then with publishing, like I think I can totally empathize with writers because I think there are some agents who talk about things in absolutes. Like
Hmm.
this is how long you should wait until you follow up on a
Hmm.
manuscript and there's no other timeline versus like I always try to approach answers to those questions like well, I think, whatever, you could follow
Hmm.
up in this, but there's no rule book, right? There's no
Yeah.
one website where all the agents have gone and we've put the guidelines and this is exactly what's like professionally appropriate in
Hmm.
every situation, right? It doesn't exist. Agencies
Hmm.
don't like communicate in that way or set up standards in that way. So in that sense, like all you could do is like follow your gut feeling and make your best judgment and like just be polite and professional to the extent that you know, and
Yeah.
like that's gonna be enough. Like that will be okay. As long as you're going in like not being a jerk,
Right.
which does happen, then you're good, I think.
Okay. Good to know. Good to know.
Yeah,
Uh,
from a professional standpoint, I was a director of a department in a software company. And I would have people come up to me and ask me questions, and I was not the person they were supposed to ask.
Yeah.
But
mhm.
I wasn't like, excuse
Right.
me, you're supposed to. I was like,
Right.
oh, hey, here's the answer to that question, but next time
Next
this
time,
Hmm.
would be a better.
yes.
And I'm not going to be a jerk about it because, like, as long as you're coming and you're being polite and respectful, I'm not
Yeah.
going to be like, how dare you speak to me? Don't you know how busy I am? Like,
A
I
hundred
just
percent.
can't
And if
imagine
you get that
that.
response from someone, then yeah, then you're like,
Yeah. Maddie, what are you
That's
talking
them.
about? You said that to me last week.
How dare you speak to me?
Oh my God. So speaking on, there obviously is no right way. There is no like rule book, whatever.
Mm,
I think one of the most common questions that we've been attempting to answer through like both of our querying journeys is like how to write a good query letter. Um, what is like just brief like bullet points, like
yeah.
top things that you would look for? Like obviously you want to connect with the material,
Yeah.
things like that, but like those more basic levels, what do you look for?
Yeah. I mean, I can talk about the components, but then also the one thing, the like the go-to word I use when I'm thinking about like what makes a successful query is specificity.
Hmm.
So I want you to be able to communicate what is specific about your story. I especially speak as someone who sees a lot of fantasy, right? And like fantasy,
Hmm.
all the stories are different, but like especially when you get down to like summarizing or a little like a bit at a basic pitch level,
Hmm.
they start to sound the same. So then
Hmm.
it's like, how can you identify the certain like hooks, as
Yeah.
we'd call them, like of the story? What is your angle? Even if this is
Hmm.
like a familiar arc of a story, even if it's like a young woman against this evil force and then there's a
Hmm.
romance, like what is it about the world building or the character or the theme that is genuinely fresh, right? That
Hmm.
is genuinely something that you are adding. I always think about it like adding to the conversation of the
Hmm.
category that you're in, right? Hopefully you're well read in the category you're writing in, and so you're aware of this is what's already out there. This is what people have been saying through their work. What new piece am I adding to the conversation? And so when I'm reading queries, I'm always the ones I'm drawn into both know where they live within their category, but
Hmm.
also can immediately pinpoint. And it doesn't have to, you don't have to have a sentence that says the thing that's different about my book is it's
Right.
more just within the pitch.
Hmm.
Yeah.
How are you really using specific terminology, specific points of the plot, whatever it is, to make this feel, to communicate to me what is unique about the story rather than it coming across as generalized, which I think
Hmm.
is something that can happen sometimes. So that when I'm looking at the pitch, like that's what I'm looking for. On top of course, your normal, please introduce
Yeah.
me to the protagonist really quickly. Please tell me. I love to like I think about it as like status quo, like right at the beginning, what's their normal before the inciting incident happens?
Hmm.
That could just be their job or their circumstance or whatever it is
Hmm.
before the thing that starts the story happens.
Yeah.
And then, what is the core conflict is always something I'm looking for. And then what's at stake, right?
Hmm.
If they succeed, what? If they don't succeed, what? So when I'm looking at the pitch, those are the pieces I'm looking for. And then in the query as a whole, I think I talked on one of the AWP panels. There's a
Hmm.
bit of a conversation about like personalization, which I
Hmm.
think is something different agents have different takes on. I realized I was on a panel with a friend of mine and she was saying how she really looks for something. like a line from the writer saying, this is why I chose you to query. And I was saying, honestly, if you wrote a fantasy, like there are two people at my agency who do fantasy. Like I just kind of assumed you queried me because you did a fantasy novel and like I'm one of the people you can send to. And like that's okay for me. If there
Hmm.
is a reason you queried me that is more specific, you read one of my clients' books, you
Hmm.
saw we have an overlap on my manuscript wish list. Like I love for that to be called out. But for me, a lot of times, if you've selected me in a strategic way, I can tell from your query why
Hmm.
you chose me. However, for
Mhm.
her, she's at an agency where they do a lot of the other agents do the same things she does. They
Hmm.
all have very overlapping tastes. They do the same genres. So for her, she likes it if you can say, this is why chosen to go to you rather
Hmm.
than the eight other people who also do literary fiction at your agency, right?
Hmm.
It's not to me, that's not a necessity, but it is like a nice to have.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Well,
Especially, I guess, learning from that at an agency where people are all doing similar work.
and I'm thinking about my query letter to you and probably saying, "Oh, hey, I love Les Mis
Which
too."
I actually,
Not the
I'll be
best.
honest, I pulled up your query because I was like, I want the context for like,
Oh yeah.
and you did, I think you mentioned like, oh, we have a lot of overlap on your
Yeah, yeah,
manuscript
yeah.
wish list.
Yeah,
And I'm
yeah.
like, that's great. Like, you're
Yeah,
like, I'm a fan of this thing. I'm like, me
right.
too.
Yeah,
Great.
no,
Like,
I'm
that
literally
honestly works as a connector.
yeah.
Yeah.
No, but I'm pretty sure that I literally was like, I've been listening to The Outsiders a lot lately. What
Which,
musicals do you like? Which
which
is so much more like a
I
friendship
really like that.
pitch.
I think that's no, I really like that. Personally, at least, I think you're just because you're saying, right? You're saying like, here's
Yeah.
a project that is within,
Yeah.
what you say you want, and
Yeah.
also here's a personal connector that
Yeah.
is like why I chose to send this to you.
Hmm.
So for me,
Okay.
I think that's appropriate.
I
Okay.
think
Cool.
okay, I think we keep reinforcing this idea that you want an agent that fits you and your vibe.
Hmm.
So I think it's better to be authentic to yourself when you're
Hmm.
writing it. Like if you're the kind of person who wants to be personal, you'll
Yeah.
find the agent that connects with that the most. Because like
Yeah.
another agent would be like, you like Les Mis, congratulations. But like, it's like it connects with the type of
Yeah.
person that you would connect with.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. And you weren't like overly personal. That's the other thing. It's not like
Yeah.
you spent like a paragraph being like, and this and this and this, and this is what I do in my spare time. And did it, it's
Right.
very like it's just like
Yeah.
kind of part of
Yeah.
the intro of like, hey, this is why I sent this
Yeah.
to you. So all
Trust
this to
me,
say,
it was very tempting to be like, what did you think of Wicked Part One? Blah blah blah.
I mean, we can have that conversation right now. I'm open to having that conversation right now. Way better than I expected is your answer,
Yes.
right?
Sorry. Yes. Still pissed that it's in two parts, but so much better than I
I
expected.
know I was also,
Yeah.
and I think I still am, but also like I wouldn't have condensed
Hmm.
that first movie much more than they
I
did.
know. I
So
trust
it
John M. Chu. I really do.
I am kind of like the first act feels like the easier thing to adapt though, so I'm so curious to see what they do with the second. I very quick tangent because I saw it again on tour recently. I hadn't seen it in years, and I kind
Hmm.
of forgot what happened in the second act because like so few of the songs are there, and I
Yes.
forgot that there's like they do this weird thing where like they have scenes where they reference the fact that a scene from Wizard of Oz just happened, but like didn't happen on stage, right? They're like, oh, that
Yes.
girl just went away. Like three times this happens where like a scene starts and you get told that like Wizard of Oz just happened in the
Yep.
middle. First
Yep.
of all, I think that worked when the show came out, and now I'm like, there are probably so many children in the audience who have no idea what you're talking about.
Hmm.
And second, I'm so excited to see what they do in the movie because I think you can't skip those scenes anymore. Like I
Hmm.
think you have to show them, but obviously you can't show them in the way that the original Wizard of Oz movie was. So I just like I'm fascinated to see
Yes.
what they do. It
Oh,
seems like
that'll
a
be
Yes.
hard
interesting.
challenge. I'm glad I'm not the one sorting out that puzzle.
Yes. Thank you so much. I really, I think that like cosmically, I just queried you because I wanted somebody to talk about theater with.
Yeah,
I'm
there you
pretty
go. And
sure
now it's
that's why
happening.
that
And now it's
actually
happening.
happened.
I love it. I do have a couple like theater head clients, and we do sometimes just like we'll talk about edits and stuff, and then it's like,
Yeah.
okay, so like what have you been listening to recently?
Oh my
Oh
gosh,
my God.
that's the dream. That's
Yes.
literally just the dream. Oh my gosh, I love that. Sorry
I
to derail the whole
not
No,
thing.
where were
not to
we?
break up this conversation because this is beautiful
Maddie's
and
like,
fun.
please.
But I do have some very specific query
Yes,
questions.
ask me.
Okay, so one is I write a multi-perspective novel. I know
Hmm.
I'm not the only person who does that.
Yeah,
Also, I heard them in AWB called polyphonic.
I've never heard that term.
Okay, okay. Thank
I'm
you. I
literally
had neither.
I'm writing that down so I can look up how much that's being used right now.
Hmm.
A polyphonic
Interesting.
novel.
Interesting. Okay.
Is it
That is
being used?
I have not used that, or if I've seen it, it has not registered with me. I usually call that
Okay.
multi-POV. So, but I
Okay.
don't know.
So
Maybe
do
other people
I.
are using it, but I have
It
not run
was
into
like an author, they kept using it, and we went to one specific about multiple point of views, and they kept using that word, and I'm like, what are they saying?
it. Sounds
Anyway,
fancy.
it sounds fancy. Sounds
Yeah.
very academic. Anyway, what would be the best? Because I heard that it's better to like pick a character and tell the query letter through that character's journey,
Oh
and then
man.
mention that you're doing multiple perspectives.
This is a great question, and I don't think there's a one size fits all answer, but I can give you kind of my perspective. I think
Sure.
it depends on how many POVs there are, because I'd say between one and three, often I actually like it when the query is structured like one, if they all have equal real estate in the book, right?
Hmm.
Like for each, obviously two is the easiest. They each just get their own paragraph, and then the third paragraph can be like them coming together. If
Yeah.
there's three, I think there's a world in which you could maybe do three short paragraphs to give, okay, these are the three storylines we're following. More than that, then I think we're getting into dangerous territory. Obviously, you're not going to do, and here are six paragraphs about the different characters. That would be a version I would try to see how that landed with like a smaller multi POV cast.
Okay.
I will say, I mean, I don't think I've signed up yet a book with more than that. I would honestly even what I would do is take a page from published books. Like I keep sorry, I keep going back to Six of Crows, but like Six of Crows is like many characters, like five, I think, in the first book,
Mhm.
six in the second. I'm sure that I would my guess would be that the pitch focuses on Cass Brecker, right? Because like even though there are lots of main characters, like he kind of
Hmm.
takes the cake a little bit. So I wonder if you do have a character who you feel like everyone's important, but this person maybe is like carrying the arc a little bit more than all these others, I would probably go towards okay, let's like give it through their perspective, but still have enough like scaffolding in the query that it's clear there are other people that are important to
Hmm.
the story, right? Rather than a query that is just on one person, and then at the end you're like, by the way, there are a lot of other important point of
Right, right,
views.
right, right,
Like,
Yeah.
right.
I think you want to justify those points of views in the actual
Yes.
pitch itself. Does that
Mhm.
help? I don't know how much that aligns with your project.
Yeah, no, I think that really helpful because like I've written the cover letter in one way, I mean the query letter in one way, but then I've thought about maybe restructuring it to try and do it from one point of view, and because I have
Yeah.
one character who's like the central, and they'll kind of everything, all the other characters kind of bounce off and relate to what's going on with that
So
character.
that
So
seems like maybe that
mhm.
person I always like to this takes the pressure off, right? If you go just try a version. Try a
Yeah,
version like this and try a version like this and see which one is resonating more or even run it by some friends who haven't read
yeah.
the book. I think sometimes is actually helpful. Run it by people who haven't read the book and see like what excites them or what confuses them or whatever it is. If you have one person and then how many POVs is it? I'm curious.
It's six.
Okay. All right. So that I think maybe you lean then towards if you have one main character anyways, just making it clear that it's
Yes.
multi POV, but that
Mhm.
like this person is really running the show.
Yes.
Mhm.
I think that makes sense because they're like
Yeah.
the central arc that's kind of causing the responses of the other
Mhm.
arcs.
100%.
And then the other thing I have is a a prologue, the prologue
Oh my gosh,
question.
the dreaded prologue question.
But like, is it something like the stuff that happens in the prologue, if it is relevant to the setup of your book, do you want to like call that out in the query letter? Like
No,
to
you
say like,
I don't think it's worth justifying your prologue in the query. You know what I mean? You don't want to be
yeah,
like, I know everyone hates prologues, but here's why mine is like we should just get that from the book, right? If you're
okay,
like there
yeah,
must be a prologue, it serves the story, just include it in the manuscript. Like don't worry about it.
okay,
Because I don't know how you would talk about that in the book in a way that or in the query in a way that wouldn't feel like you were trying to like make an excuse or justify. Because sometimes I get those inquiries where it's like, oh, like by the way, the POV is going to change a lot after the first 20. I'm like, I need to be pulled in by the first 20. It
right,
doesn't
Mhm.
matter, right? I need to be pulled in by the thing that's on the page, and you feel that's the right place for the book to start. So just start it there, and either I'm going to be pulled in by that or I'm not, right?
right. It's just I kind of played around with having that too, like an idea to do that because the prologue is a perspective of one of the other characters,
Mm,
like later on.
yeah.
So I'm like, if I made them the main character that came through, then it would make sense why the prologue is there. But also, like, the prologue just sets up an event that happened 20 years ago that is important to the
Uh-huh.
novel.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
maybe, but I could try it both ways and see, like, maybe it
Y-
works better with that character or this character. But
Yeah. Well, because I would say the one thing you want is sometimes I get thrown off, especially in like fantasy sci-fi, if the query tells me one thing and then I start the book and I have no idea how the thing I'm reading connects to the pitch I've
Hmm.
just read, right? I need to
Yes.
have some sense, and I get the sense you're saying, like, yeah, this character might not even be mentioned in the pitch. So then, like, what, like, is the reader going to be thrown off? And so I think you need to find a way to maybe you give us a teeny bit of a half a line of context about that
Yeah,
event,
specific. Yeah.
right? In the pitch, so that we at least go in being like, oh, that's that thing that I was told, is going to
Mhm.
happen, something
Yeah.
like that, so that we go in with some connector, even if it's not the
Yeah.
character.
Okay. Okay. I've got some ideas turning. Thank you so
Okay,
much.
cool.
That was very
Yeah,
helpful.
of course, I know. And I always like to caveat, like, there is no one right answer. And especially us talking
No.
about it hypothetically, please don't take
Mhm.
my word as like, this is the way it's going to be. Like, play with it, play with it till you feel good about it.
Yeah. I definitely think there was something missing in the way that I had it done now.
Mhm.
And so
Yeah.
like I wasn't quite sure what to do with it because it's just kind of it's such a specific thing and you
Yeah.
can't always find people's query letters.
No,
Some
but I would
people.
say again, go read the cover copy of of sci-fi fantasy books with big casts and see how they
Yeah.
approach it. I think you'll
Yeah.
probably find most of them are going to mostly focus on one character, but just see, because maybe you'll find ones that are structured differently and you can emulate that. Because
Yeah.
query pages are almost identical to cover copy. So you really
Cool.
can like lean on that in the
Cool,
same,
cool, cool. That's
just
really
like
good
you can with
advice.
with query letters.
Yeah.
Nice.
Sorry. I
Yeah.
sorry. I didn't mean to make this about
No,
me.
you're
No, no,
good.
I
No, I
love
love this.
that.
I love that you both came with like specific questions. Like that makes me really happy.
Yeah. Well, it's just nice because we're both in very similar places, but we're also in very different places in our like publishing journey, through
Yeah,
all of this. So it's so nice. And I know you can only speak for you, but it's so
yeah,
nice to get just an agent's perspective on all of
totally.
this.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I think that our time is almost up, but I do have one last question for you, if that's okay.
Sure.
And it is just, what piece of advice would you give to someone in our position, to someone who is starting that querying agenting process?
Yeah. I mean, I have two. One is something we've already talked about, and the other I feel like is advice everyone gives, but I give it because I do think it's like the piece of advice. The first would just be to go in with a sense of like positivity and knowing that your query is going to be met with positive energy on the other side, right? Like not going in defeatist, no, going in realistic, right? Going in knowing
Yes.
this is a long process for everyone.
Hmm.
And also, like I'm not as quick as I want to be on my reading. It's not because I don't want to read your book. It's because there's literally only 24 hours in the day and I'm doing
Hmm.
my absolute best. So just
Hmm.
knowing that like even when you're getting silence on the other end or even when people are taking eons, like
Hmm.
that doesn't actually mean that this whole thing is doom and gloom. It just means it's slow, right?
Hmm.
So going in with building up your own well of like excitement and positivity and resilience before you go in so that you're ready for that
Yeah.
process and knowing that you're signing up right for that in the long term too, right?
Hmm.
That's what the submission process to editors looks like as well. So this is just the world we're living in and finding that
Hmm.
sense of acceptance. My client Anna Mercier, who I actually mentioned, she has a podcast called Turning to Story, and like their whole focus is on how there's a lot of things you can't control in this industry, but you can control your craft. And I think that is
Hmm.
such like just like a calming and like reassuring thing to be like, okay, let's just accept the fact that there are certain
Hmm.
things we can't control, but I can control my writing and like I can control the joy I find in that and like
Hmm.
focusing on that when you head out into the query trenches.
Yes.
And then my other piece of advice is oft repeated, but like read, 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 read. Especially
Hmm.
like we talked a little bit about kidlit. Like sometimes people ask me about YA and like what makes a YA book and all these things. And like there are certain like hallmarks or like ways that YA might differ from adult. But like the answer also is like the approach, the feel, the like
Hmm.
romance as well, right? Certain cat or sci-fi.
Yeah.
Like there are certain intangibles
Hmm.
that you cannot just come up with yourself. You cannot read from a textbook. You just have to be inhaling books
Hmm.
and there's a rhythm to a scene, right? There's
Hmm.
all these things that you cannot just come by. You have to A, practice and B, taking in so that it is just a natural part of you.
Hmm.
And so I think that reading both within your category and outside your category, first of all, hopefully is fun. But
Yeah.
second of all, is going to just keep you flowing within like how the words actually feel on the page in a published book and then that hopefully is going to kind of like flow into your own writing style and approach as you find your own voice and your own unique take on what
Hmm.
that looks like. But yeah, I think people who uh find success with querying or like also when they're crafting their pitch have a bit of an easier road when they have a sense of the market that they're trying to publish into, right? Like
Yeah.
they actually know the comps because they've been reading the comps, right? So,
Yeah.
so that is a big piece of advice that I have for people embarking on this. And hopefully it's like a fun task. Like hopefully that's what we
Hmm.
all want to be doing anyways.
Yeah. No,
I
that
have to say that that is very true because I didn't read for a long time because I didn't, I studied English, and so I took a break from reading because
Yes,
I
you were
was
like, all
reading
right,
so
enough.
much. And so I took a break and I was writing a lot, and I was like, I miss reading. So then I started reading a ton of books in I read 50 books in a year. And then
Wow.
I started writing again. And then I compared my writing to a year before and my writing had improved drastically. And I'd done
Wow.
absolutely nothing other than read 50 books. It just kind of
Wow.
seeped into me. So it's really important to read because you're picking up more than you realize, even if you're not consciously like, oh, this is how you write a scene. Your brain is
Right.
like, this is how you write a scene. Yeah.
Right.
yeah. Yeah.
Completely agree.
Well, and even in that, like I reading within my category and stuff like that, I just updated my query letter because I was like, oh, this is a much better comp title than what I actually had there. And like
Ah,
it's always that like exciting feeling of like, oh, like this is in conversation with my thing. And like
yes.
I love that advice just to keep reading. Yeah.
Yes. Yes. Oh my gosh.
Uh,
Fantastic. This was so
well,
fun.
yay!
Oh my gosh,
Thank
thank
you
you
so
so
much
much.
for coming on and talking to us. You've given such great insight. We really appreciate it.
Of course. Well, and I listened to, I think you sent me like your TJ Flynn episode and I listened. That
Yeah.
was so much fun. I was just like, oh, I'm excited to chat with you guys because you're just good energy, good questions,
Thank
smart
you.
things you're
Thank
considering.
you.
So I'm wishing you both the best of luck. I cannot
Thank
wait to
you.
see your books on the shelves.
Thanks.
And
Thanks.
yeah,
Fingers
stay in
crossed.
touch.
I'm Abigail.
And I'm Maddie, and this has been
Two writers.
Many Wrongs.